So to set my mind up for this, in terms of going out to see the movie Maverick, this was not a movie I wanted to see. I wasn't adamantly against it, but so in terms of the original Top Gun movie, it's not like in my all-time favorites. I mean, a lot of movies I've seen, I can quote critical quotes from the movie, and I can remember a whole lot, a bunch of things happening. But in this particular one, Top Gun, I only have like a few vague memories of it. This was a time period where I wasn't watching a whole lot of movies, and it never jumped out at me as like the standout movie of the 80s. I can easily think of a dozen others that I would put in that place. So that said, when I initially heard there was going to be a sequel to the movie, my reaction was, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what we need." And my view was it was just going to be a bunch of uh, 80s nostalgia cash grabbing, which maybe on a certain level it is, but um, that's what I was anticipating. And then I heard that essentially Tom Cruise has been resisting doing a movie like this for a long time. So, and there's a man who doesn't necessarily need a whole bunch more money. He's doing pretty good on that. And apparently, he was approached while doing a shot of one of the Mission Impossible movies, and I guess while he was in the makeup chair or something like that, the producer came up to him and said, "Hey, I want you to read this Maverick Top Gun script." And I guess Tom was like, "I got nothing else better to do." So spent a half hour reading it and turned around and said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And so that made me a little bit more inclined to like the movie, or at least be amiable to possibly seeing it. I mean, I'm not the greatest Tom Cruise fan in the world, but the one thing you can say is that he's pretty good at not picking crap in terms of movies. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this will be okay. But again, I wasn't really pulled in that direction. Then I started hearing a lot of the reviewers online that I consider to be in line with my thinking. I mean, basically, when they recommend something, odds are really good I'm going to like it. And when they don't like something, we have a lot of similarity where it's like, okay, yeah, if you don't like it, I seem not to like it either. And all of them were saying, hey, Maverick's fantastic. And still, I really didn't have this huge pull to go see it. And then the people my wife works with started saying, "Oh no, this is a really good movie. This is fantastic." And my wife was like, "Yeah, we should go see this. We should go see this." I'm like, "Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, worst case, it's a couple hours out of my time." And so I went in there, not really with any particular expectations in mind. So I'm not going to spoil anything at this point. I'm just going to give you generalities. Uh, so movie opens up pretty decently. The one thing I have a problem with, and this is not anything that gives anything away, it is Tom Cruise's character, his particular relationship to the Navy. If you're have any familiarity with how the military works, there is no possible way he could exist in the role he is in at the rank he's at after this amount of passage of time. And it wasn't like the end of the world, but being military, I'd look at it and went, okay, I'll buy it because you probably have a good reason for doing it, because it would actually made more sense if he was a military contractor at that point, but it would have messed up the rest of the storyline. So I see why they did it, and not a huge issue. So you have the opening sequences, and you get to basically see that his character is very similar to what it was in the original movie. I mean, he's basically this guy who needs to push limits and ridiculously confident in his abilities. And some people love him for it, and other people hate him. And it's like, okay, not too bad. And that basically launches it into the next sequence where they need him to teach the next class of Top Gun pilots. And this is where they start getting into a lot of nostalgic stuff. And to be honest, at this point, I was like, "Oh God, this is going to be really bad. They're just going to keep hitting us with the member berries until you know, I end up either falling asleep or wishing I hadn't come." And so I started to get a little bit agitated because I did not like what they were doing until I realized, okay, everything in there was absolutely Chekhov's gun or rifle, depending on how you look at it. Absolutely. They're not showing you anything that's extraneous. It's all stuff you need to understand the continuing plot line, which is good. But like, so if you end up in the same position I am, just wait it out. So what they're actually doing is they're refreshing your memory of key elements from the original movie, some of which I just completely forgot. But they're all very germane to the storyline that's about to unfold. So they're setting you up. So yeah, on one hand, I'm sure they were thinking, yeah, let's get them with some nostalgia, but it's not BS nostalgia. It is critical to the storyline. So that's okay. So we get into the test school or the Top Gun school, and a couple of what I consider to be very good things there. So essentially, you got it's like the best of the best of the best pilots, and what's going to happen is they're going to have to pick uh, like the best four out of I can't remember how many they're running, but so the thing is they're going to be eliminating the ones who aren't measuring up, and then the best of that handful get picked. So there's this strong sense of competition going there, and it seems kind of legit. Uh, they all kind of know each other from past events. They've seen each other in other things. They all have not ridiculously well developed personalities, but they're all distinct. Where you can go, okay, yeah, this guy's a little different from that guy. That lady there has a particular, you know, a particular gravitas, the way she carries herself, etc., etc. Now, one thing that's incredibly, wonderfully refreshing is you essentially have a bunch of people, mixed race, mixed gender, and it's not an issue. It's back like in the United States when we were trying to kind of be all one big group of people and ignore the differences. Where it's like, no, it's this, like when actually diversity was our strength before the invasion of the message, uh, essentially dividing us. So there's no stupid little plot lines about the female pilot having to, overcome the male oppressors or anything like that. She's just pretty damn good, and it's recognized, and she knows where she fits into the thing, and she has her little trials and tribulations in the competition. Uh, so none of that stupidity is playing out. The message does not exist in this movie, which is absolutely fantastic. It's so completely refreshing. Um, so the flight school goes through and does its thing where they're essentially training for this mission, uh, and essentially the time parameters change and other things like that. Uh, Basically increasing the stress level and ratcheting things up. And I think this sequence goes pretty good. The thing, of course, that stands out is, uh, and this is general all over in the movie, overwhelmingly all the aircraft in flight, the ships in the water, aircraft landing on aircraft carriers. It's all practical. It's they went out and shot this with the real deal. They went out and shot at the Top Gun school. They shot with several different carrier groups, and it's again very refreshing that it's not a bunch of CGI that yanks you out of the movie. There may be some CGI in there that I didn't notice, which says a lot too. But uh, it seems very plausible, at least from the action part of it. And yeah, so the school part is pretty decent. And then you have the actual attack run. Certain things don't go exactly the way as planned. Um, they set you up for a couple of things where you're like, oh boy, I kind of have a feeling what's going on. But um, yeah, I'm not gonna, I won't talk too much about that. Let's just say they tend to, they surprise you by not giving you exactly what you want, but at the same time, they don't go full Rayan Johnson and subvert your expectations by, setting off a nuclear bomb and killing everybody. It's like, whoa, you didn't see that coming. None of that. It's a pretty much straight up forward plot. They give you a twist, and you start wondering, like, okay, how is this going to come out? And you sit there and say, okay, I can buy that. Uh, so they have an end sequence where they have to deal with the aftermath of the mission. Pretty good stuff. And then there's kind of a wrap up epilogue part. It's a little on the sappy side, but they go through and tie up all the loose ends. And yeah, I'm generally pretty happy with how things went. Um, so dialogue is pretty decent. There's a couple of points in the middle of the movie where they're using songs that the generation of pilots that are being used as the actors and actresses here would have no connection to whatsoever. But it's a connection back to the original movie, so that it kind of has to happen because of the way they do it. But that's a little bit of a glaring thing. Uh, Acting's decent. Cruise really fills out his role. I would say one of the things is he has become a pilot since then, and being a pilot, I think he could act out the piloting sequences with a little bit more realism than he would have in the original movie. Although, because there's a large cast of characters, they can't develop the characters in an extreme way. So I won't say that they're underdeveloped or two dimensional. It's just it seems like they could be a lot richer, but time constraints. I understand what they did. It's not they're not painful at all. Dialogue is generally pretty good. There's another sequence where there's like a team building exercise that seemed a little on the hokey side, and they don't really fully explain the nature. You see what's happening, and you're like, huh, that's kind of interesting, but they don't fully explain the logic of it. An extra 30 seconds there might have been useful, but again, it's a short enough sequence where you just go, okay, yeah, you didn't really explain this to me, but go on, I'm okay with this. This is fine. Uh, Again, I mentioned CGI. It's either non-existent or limited, and what limited CGI there is done in such a way that it doesn't take you out of the movie nor make you go, oh, that's just suddenly unbelievable. Interesting stuff they did with the enemy they go up against. Uh, they made them utterly generic. You actually never see their faces, so you don't really know who you're up against. Their military equipment is stamped with a um, kind of a nondescript symbol. It almost looks like the Rebel Alliance. Uh, and it's acceptable. It's not a super rah rah patriotic movie, but at the same time, uh, it's just an accepted. Here you are, you're members of the military. You're being told that you have a mission to do that's going to, if we don't do it, uh, if we don't accomplish it correctly, it's going to have horrible impacts on our country. So here you go, you got a job to do, and everyone is there to do their job. They understand it. They're the best of the best. They're too far into their military careers to be the type of people who are like, well, gee, what about America's past sins and none of that nonsense. Again, no message. So, like if this were 10 years ago when this movie came out, I would probably rate it kind of a C plus B minus movie. Where it's like, okay, this is pretty decent, but it's not the greatest thing in the world because of the incredible train load of car after car of crap we've had to watch over the last couple of years. It really stands out as a decent movie. I think you'll walk in. You may have a few doubts at the same place as I did. Your doubts will be erased. Uh, you'll have a generally good feeling when it's all over. And there's a few points in the center where you might kind of go, "Ooh, what are they going to do?" And it's not painful. It's just it, it's good. They're good twists. They're reasonably good twists. So I mean, if you're like thrilled with all the movies that have come out in the last couple of years, you may not like it. If you're kind of looking at the movies of the last couple of years, going, "What the hell happened to Hollywood?" You'll probably like this one. Uh, in our age, this is now a B minus, or excuse me, B plus A minus movie. So definitely because of the flight sequences, it's probably worth seeing on the big screen. I don't know if you need to go full IMAX on it, but the big screen experience will probably make it more enjoyable. Okay, I don't think I'll make tons of movie reviews because I don't get out to see movies like I used to, but I may have a few coming up on the horizon here. So thank you for spending time with me. If you like the video, like it. If you have comments, comment. If you think there's somebody who could get something out of this, share it. And of course, please consider subscribing to my channel. Hope to see you again soon in a future video.